This podcast is brought to you by the Disabled But Not Really Foundation, a local Kansas City nonprofit organization that pushes to instill a physical limitless mindset that breeds courage, confidence, and competence within the disabled community. You can follow and support Disabled But Not Really on social media or go visit their website at disabledbutnotreally.org. Their work and their mission is to really impact communities and make more people understand the benefits of inclusivity.
We're live. Happy Sunday morning. It's August 18th, 2024, our time. But you could be watching this at any time. And it is deep into summer, although we were just talking, summer's kind of almost over. I don't subscribe to that though. I want to do September. April Jackson here from Open Up, and good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Yes, it is around that end of summer mark. School's getting back started. I know some of us are prepared for that. Some extra breaks during the day. Some some of these Sundays to get ready for a Monday sounds even better.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it, but I'm more excited about this call. So.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We have Chimeria Terrell, and we're so happy. I'm going to have you introduce yourself, but before that, I wanted to just share, talking about kind of back to school. There was a conference that I attended, and it was called the Unconference. And it was for like out of school providers, people who are kind of frontline working with children and adults in the schools. And they had, oh my gosh, there are two people. There's you, and then you were talking about you did CPR, AED, all that, but it was way more than that. And there were a lot of other conferences. There's mindfulness. There were just so many workshops. But I was so impressed. And I will say that was one of the most intensive trainings. And I've done CPR training extensively through the years. You just knocked it out the box. So we were really excited to have you on because you really addressed some things that aren't, to me, ever talked about in a CPR training. But before we get into that, I just want folks to know who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that, April. I appreciate that. So my name is Chimeria Terrell. I am a Pittsburgh native, born and raised. I grew up in Beechview, so that's in the south part of Pittsburgh. I am a nurse and a CPR instructor. I'm a mom. I have 3 sons who literally span all age groups. So I have a son, a sophomore in college, a sophomore in high school, and I have a 4th grader. So all different walks of life right now for the kids. Some things I love to do. I like to cook, of course. I love to garden when I'm not running from bugs. I'm terrified of bugs, but I love to garden. So that's kind of like an odd thing that I enjoy. I really love historical drama. That's like really one of my favorite things. I like to watch it. I love to read it. And something that people really don't know about me is before I became a nurse, I was a classical trained opera singer. So
get out of here.
I know, it's just like totally random, but I thought I would mention it because it's just something that, you always kind of want to tell something about you that people really wouldn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. That's amazing. Yeah. We're going to have you on again and give us a whole opera.
Right, absolutely.
For real. Oh my gosh. We were all just talking about our kids and going back to school, but I didn't know you were a mom of 3 boys. Me too. Woo! Oh! 3 boy mama club. They said there's a special room in heaven for us.
I think so.
The nurse told me that when I had the last one and I delivered him. She's like, "There's a special room in heaven for you," and now I know why.
Yes, it is definitely something. It's not for the weak. I'll tell you that.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm going to share my experience a little bit, and then we want to talk about, like, this conversation is about disparities in healthcare. You've been a nurse for a long time, but the one thing that triggered all of this, like Tessa was like, we need to have her on. When we were working on the dummies for, the training, some of them had prosthetic breast on. And I was like, I ain't never seen that. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
And you were like, yes, I do that intentionally because women receive, I think you said 30% fewer.
Around there, yeah. It's around 30% less bystander CPR than men. Mm-hmm.
Because people don't want to touch their breasts.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of factors, and as I did more research, on it, there was quite a few factors. I feel like it's just the shock of the whole women's anatomy, and people kind of feel like they want to protect women's modesty. So, they don't want to expose breasts, which you would have to do to perform CPR. You would have to, remove clothes. You have to remove a bra, especially for the use of the AED. So, and also some of the research is just saying that, people don't want to hurt women. Because for me, CPR, like I said in class, you have to push hard and you have to push fast. People are afraid of maybe, hurting a woman or, breaking ribs, things like that. And I always say in my classes, we will fix those ribs at the hospital. Do CPR now. Only thing I want you to focus on is compressions. That's it. So yeah, there are definitely some disparities, some big disparities on why women aren't receiving as much CPR as men. I also think it's really a lot of the fact that even in our DVDs, right, or the videos that I show you, they'll even specify that, we're going to be showing you CPR men to, respect global and cultural sensitivity. And I really hope that in the next coming years, they kind of change that, because I think that that's adding to the disparity, because when you're trained, you're not seeing women. You're not seeing, breasts exposed. So you're not necessarily, ready for that when your victim is a woman. So I think that they really do need to have more public campaigns and things that are really focusing on women, just to kind of get people acclimated to the fact that your victim can be a man or a woman.
Yeah. And then there was another, when, we explained to you and we're like, hey, would you like to come on? And we explained what Open Up does. And Wes also has a nonprofit, Disabled, but not really. And he does a lot of health, nutrition, well-being, and fitness. You were mentioning also the disparities with the disability community. And you were like, no, wheelchair users can get CPR certifications. And you wanted to tap into that. And what are the disparities with the disabled community with CPR and AED training and stuff?
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, people with disabilities, there is a certification that the American Heart Association has created, and it is called the CPR Advisor. So what that is that's a certification where people who can't physically perform CPR on victims, but can cognitively, take the class and pass the test for basic life support. So BLS is kind of a subgroup of a CPR course where we really teach BLS for healthcare providers. It's a little bit of a more intense course, and it really encompasses high performance teams where people are going to come together to save one victim. But there is a BLS advisor course where people can take the cognitive part, take the test and take that full course, and then they can be advisors to people who can physically perform the compressions and the breaths and things like that. So, and I think that's extremely helpful. You can think of them more of kind of like a team leader, because, you have the people who can perform the compressions, but you have that person that's reminding you, hey, I can see that your compressions are getting a little bit shallow. You're going a little bit too slow. I need you to compress harder. I need you to compress faster. So that really will keep people on track. And then it just brings everyone together, for that common goal of saving a life. So that BLS advisor certification, I think is amazing. I think it's an amazing course that people can take, because I work with people, who may not be able to physically perform the skills, but they can absolutely advise me if I'm getting tired, or if I forget something, or if someone else forgets something, or if they're just having a tough time, and just encourage them and remind them of the skills.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just looked it up and I pulled up the advisor thing. So we'll put that in the newsletter, everyone, so you can extend that to your community. BLS is basic life support.
Basic life support. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for providing that information, at least for I didn't know. So that's something that we can use as a resource for our organization to allow others to know that they can, bring value in these situations. Because I think that's just it makes sense though.
I think that people don't even think that they could even take a course. Like, oh, I can't, perform CPR, so I may not be able to take it. You absolutely can take it, and you can be certified, and you can help save a life just as much as anyone else.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean that. Honestly, that really helps. There's certain jobs where, you have to be required to have CPR or something like that. And so it might, in some sense, maybe keep a person out of that if they don't think they're capable of having some type of certification.
Mm-hmm.
So that just, that's good to know, because when people have that, then it creates a different question sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I know this is good. I would love to kind of like dive in a little deeper if you like, especially since I like kind of around just healthcare disparities all around. Like what are some other ones, even like when it comes to women, that should kind of really be more shed to light, like
yes,
outside of like disability and things like this is for me to learn, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
yes, so you can be ready, Wes.
Yes, definitely. So when we have, as far as women, so for women, we've talked about how women receive less bystander CPR. So a bystander is just someone who is not a healthcare provider, right? And someone who is just more of like a passerby. So that's what we mean when we say a bystander. So a lot of the research is done around who was receiving bystander CPR and is it helping them if they receive it. So really when it comes to gender, women, we talked about how they're receiving less bystander CPR. A lot of the research that I have found, which was really shocking to me, was Black women receive the least amount of bystander CPR. And it shocked me because I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm a Black woman, right? So it's kind of like, wait, what's happening here? But the evidence is showing that. And in Black and Brown communities as a whole, there is less bystander CPR being performed. And when Black and Brown people are not in their communities and they are outside of their communities, they are also receiving less bystander CPR. So that is alarming, right? I mean, it's very alarming. And I try to focus on what we can fix, okay? Because we can't fix whether or not someone sees the value in performing CPR on us. However, I feel like we can absolutely fix what we can do in our own communities. And I believe that the reason why we are not receiving as much bystander CPR in our communities is just a lack of knowing how to perform CPR. Okay. So I think that we really need to focus on education, focus on training. You need to find people like me to come into your community and train. And I really think it helps, especially in the Black and Brown and minority communities, because when you see someone who looks like you, who is showing you what to do to save someone, I think that really does help, especially, with younger people, that more of like representation, kind of when you see more Black and Brown people promoting CPR, promoting the fact that, you need to learn these life-saving measures, Heimlich maneuvers, ways to help infants and children. I think that would help with just as a whole, bringing our community kind of up so we can kind of bridge the gap there and kind of stop some of these fatalities that we're seeing when it comes to, out of hospital cardiac arrests.
No, absolutely. I thought about while you were speaking, at what age does CPR training normally is brought to, our attention? Like,
Yeah.
is it ever like brought at a certain age, or do you have to go and like seek it?
Well, so some schools so there is a K through 12 course that is offered. The American Heart Association, you know, the AHA, they really spearhead a lot of these programs that kind of think outside the box a little bit. So there is a K through 12 program that will teach school age children how to perform CPR. In my experience, I feel like children, as long as if they can sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day, they can definitely learn CPR. Now, could a 9-year-old perform deep enough compressions on a grown man? Probably not, right? But a 9-year-old can definitely know, okay, there's a problem, I need to call 911, I need to get help on the way, I need to they can definitely perform CPR on, another child or something like that, and honestly, you never know. I hate to even, maybe downplay what a 9-year-old can do. I'll be honest with you. Let me actually take that back, because there may be a 9-year-old who, when that adrenaline is pumping, they could go ahead and compress, a grown man with no problem, because they understand why they're doing what they're doing. So I believe, children definitely should know CPR. My children all are CPR certified. My 9-year-old, since he is younger, he just he knows CPR. He can use an EpiPen. He can, and he has no allergies, but he knows how to use one. He can show you how to use one. And they really enjoy it. Children love to learn how to help. They're very eager. They are so eager to learn how to help, and it makes them feel amazing when they do it. So I think that children should definitely be brought into the conversations for sure. There's again, American Heart Association has a family and friends course that I teach. And it doesn't give you a certification card, like how you need a card for work and things like that, but it teaches you how to do CPR. And I do it typically when I do the class. I actually did some of my extended family. They came in because they had a new baby, and they just wanted to know, how do we save our baby if we need to? So they brought the whole family in, and that's usually what I see. People bring in their families, their nannies, their babysitters, extended families who will be watching the baby. They'll bring them in and they will learn CPR. And in that way, we kind of have a more relaxed course, because it's just your family, and we come in and everybody just learns how to perform CPR. And even the children, grandparents, everybody learns at the same time. So it's really like a nice kind of thing that everybody does.
But thank you for sharing. I think that, and I pose that question because in a lot of ways, when you can start to educate at such a younger age, even if it's not for them to be certified, it brings the level of awareness that as an adult, you can save a life. Because just listening to the data that shows that there's less people being saved in certain communities as well as others. So one, you have the awareness and racial divide that kind of brings that stigma that people probably aren't helping. But then in the black and brown communities, just from personal experience, I don't think that we are really taught how to save lives, even though most lives are being taken away in our communities. Mm-hmm. And so, you think about I think about it. I mean, I was shot myself and paralyzed. And so I remember just how long in my mind I was processing, waiting on the ambulance to arrive.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. But it wasn't that anyone was trying to help. I might have had people maybe hold my chest, but it was a lack of awareness of how to save a life, regardless of the situation.
Like even when they came to support you, Absolutely. They didn't know what to do.
It was just a circle of people. Everybody kind of just, I remember, because I always tell, like, it was just people just surrounded me, but no one really came to help. But I think it was would I come to help someone if I saw it, or would I kind of be in shock because I never knew what to do? Yeah. Right? I could react to a certain extent, but I can't react to the real proper aid that I maybe could have learned through an hour class or 2-hour class, or being educated through school, right? Like, just there's a course in school that should be able to just provide that insight, rather it's a 30-minute talk or a 15-minute talk or a handout. I think when you visually see it, it's just like disability awareness. Like if we can learn more at such a young age, the stigmas and how we see it doesn't have to be such a hard thing when we get older. So whoever's listening, if you're in education and things, the American Heart Association has everything that you need.
Yeah.
Sounds like, and you want to be able to have someone be able to know how to save you if you were in a situation.
Yeah. I just kind of in listening, there's so many things like the disparities part.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that some more. But I think I first got it when I was a teacher. Like I don't remember in high school, middle school. I feel like maybe in a health class we kind of talked about it, but when I started teaching, it was required.
Right.
And then just recently, like we do this program with different people, and I was telling you about it, the community CPR, bystander CPR. I didn't know the difference between bystander and CPR. But Stop the Bleed, just listening to Wes's story, like now, has that always been a certification of Stop the Bleed? I know, like, I see it more now.
Right. Yeah. So Stop the Bleed, there used to be where we just kind of touched on, and so in all basic first aid classes, we do have a module that talks about life-threatening bleeding using tourniquets, the difference between life-threatening bleeding and non-life-threatening bleeding. Non-life-threatening bleeding is like from a vein. So that's just I always kind of describe it as more of a trickle, like the blood is just trickling. If it's a life-threatening bleed, that is blood that's spurting, and that's coming from an artery. So that's really, we have to stop that because, people will lose, too much blood. So when they started to kind of put together that full course, the Stop the Bleed course is its own entity now. And it is about 2.5 hours long. So it will cover everything about stopping bleeds from gunshot wounds, from stab wounds, when people get punctured with things, accidental, punctures, if they were to fall on a metal rod, things like that. And that course is great. I do offer that course. I haven't taught it yet. I haven't had a request for it yet. Sometimes I do, but then when they see how long it is in itself, they're like, oh, never mind. Because a lot of times companies, they just have a certain amount of time to get people trained. So sometimes you run into that issue where they just don't have the time to do the whole Stop the Bleed course. But all your basic first aid courses are going to touch on bandaging and stopping bleeds. And they do touch on how to use a tourniquet. The active shooter course really gets into tourniquets. And that is another provider. I teach for everybody. So I teach for the American Heart Association, I teach for HSI, and I teach for the American Red Cross. So HSI has a course, the active shooter course, where it is so interactive. Everyone gets a tourniquet. And while you're having the course, all of a sudden it'll come across the screen that says, you've just been shot in your leg. Take your tourniquet and apply your tourniquet. So, and the first person who gets the tourniquet applied raises their hand. So they're the first person to get it applied. And it's really fun. It's interactive. And it helps you learn how to hurry up and get a tourniquet on and stop a life-threatening bleed as quick as you can. So those bleeding classes, I hope in the future can start to get more incorporated to help others learn how to really stop those life-threatening bleeding situations.
I did not know any of that existed. I mean, goodness, how much?
Right? A whole nother world out here.
That's why I had to have her on, Wes. I was like mind blown in this class.
Oh my God, I've just learned so much. Yeah. I'm over here like, what resources can I provide? What certifications can I go get? Like, just to have knowledge. Knowledge is key, and so. One, appreciate the work that you do to try to educate and share this knowledge, and even helping us learn today, because I do think it's important. I'm already like took some notes. Like, okay, this is crazy. Active shooter, of course. I mean, I think it's necessary. Absolutely.
Very necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, right? Like,
Yeah.
active shooter it's very necessary to keep people informed. People just have to be ready, and I always tell people in my CPR courses, this is controlled. This is a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And sometimes people feel funny about saying certain things. Call 911, get an AED, or, clear before they give a shock to someone. I'm like, I know it may feel funny to say these things out loud, but I need you to understand that this is a controlled environment. And when you are in a cardiac arrest situation, it is complete chaos. And so that's why I need you to remember saying these things now, so that when you are, or if you are in that situation, you kind of remember, oh, this is why I had to do this, because this is the chaos that she was telling me about that I would be confronted with.
And it kind of, me listening to you talk about like teaching the stop the shooting, stop the bleed, or the active shooter course. And then you're like in the middle of class, someone says, you just been shot in the leg, put on a tourniquet, makes it interactive, but it kind of demystifies the fear, I think, of, I mean, this is a reality, unfortunately, right? And obviously, like, it happens. Yeah. And I just feel like it can build our resilience if we know, like, it can happen and we don't have to die. Like, we can help ourselves. We can help others. You could very well die. I mean, that's of course, but we can make ourselves a little healthier. We can treat ourselves before we get into the hospital and stuff. Yeah, and it's so disappointing to know, like, Black and brown folks don't get the same support and the same education. And it's more than disappointing. Like, we know it, but then to hear you be like, no, here are the statistics, the reality of it, it's just really, it's heartbreaking. And I'm wondering, one, what could be the reason? I know these courses cost money. So is it like cost prohibitive for people, or what do you think?
I do believe that, cost comes into play, and that is something that even us as instructors can't control. Right. I have to say, after the pandemic, I know, and just in the past year, the American Heart Association has raised their prices for me 3 times. And I did not raise my prices until the very last time, where I had no choice. Right. But I tried not to for the longest that I could. The 2 times they raised, I didn't. I said, I can't do this. But that's the reason why I do push the family and friends course. It's very cost effective. And so that way you at least could know CPR. I really do believe that there need, maybe even, at community days and things like that, when, you can have people like me come in, just volunteer our time with a table. And even though we may not be doing that whole full course, the course like you guys took, at least I can show you, the steps to getting help, right? Assess your scene, make sure, see if they can be aroused, call 911, and at least get 911 dispatchers on the phone, and you can start to do some compressions. I may not be able to teach you, everything, of course, because that would take a long time, but I can at least show you how deep you can press on a chest until EMS can get there. And that's something that dispatchers will be telling you anyway, if you call 911 and you didn't know how to perform CPR. So I think that maybe, in our communities, it would be really good to get people like me just in places where we can just, like, at community days and things like that, there's always pop-up shops at community days. And I don't think that, it's even thought to have people like me there. I would love to be there. So if you're out there and you're having a community day, please reach out to me, because I have no problem at all volunteering my time to come and show people how to perform CPR, so that we can kind of we absolutely can start to, kind of get rid of those disparities that we have in our communities.
That's a great idea to, like, when you have a health and wellness fair and stuff, and be like, I mean, you're right. I don't see many people there to talk about life-saving and CPR-AD. So that's another thing, everybody. If you're, designing a health and wellness fair or well-being, or even like a cookout, or what I mean, like
anything,
Black family reunion in LA, like, have somebody there who's going to talk about it.
It is important. We can talk about doing all the things holistically, but then we don't know how to help someone in the moment, and so I think that that's very important to really push, is that there's a lot of talk about how to take care of yourself, but how to take care of someone in the moment, when they really need it, is another conversation to be had. And for all of us that are pushing some type of way of healthcare and self-care, I think, like, this is education that we should be providing, that we should have at our events. I'm holding myself accountable. So, like, I think that it makes sense. Once or you have that awareness, you see that booth, you get your kids running around grabbing all the goodies. They done got a little handout, regardless of how it is. You probably would visually see it for a second or a moment, and that information can be embedded within your mind for you to want to learn more or just be aware. And so I think that, I'm a firm believer that once it's in front of you, you do soak it in, or at least you can see it. But when you don't see it, you don't even know it's out there, especially to stop the bleed. I'm thinking, why isn't that, as we are doing more about gun violence and awareness, why, I don't know if that's something that these organizations are taking, but I hope that is a course that they're educating on at the same time, because we can stop the violence, but we can also save a life.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So, because I don't know if I don't know how I could help someone if they were stabbed. I'll be honest. And I watch a lot of movies, and I'm always like, wondering, like, that's a deep wound, right? Like, or something like that. And so those thoughts do come through my head.
Yeah.
And I've always just thought maybe it just needs to be a medical professional, but it could be you that is helping before that individual get to that professional. And it's probably in those moments, especially from personal experience, it's probably those 5, maybe 2-3 minutes or whatever, I don't know, that you guys project that are the most important for a person's life.
Yeah, absolutely. What happens right after, an event like that is the most important time that we need to be able to act. Honestly, that is absolutely true. And those Stop the Bleed courses definitely do touch on that. We absolutely do things like packing wounds, and that would be something that we would have to do in a stabbing situation. We need to pack the wound to stop the bleeding and things like that. There's all types of dressings that are, infused with things that are going to help the blood clot. So those are all things that are taught in those Stop the Bleed courses. They are really, really essential to learn how to, and I also kind of say, because I get that in my classes where they're watching that and they're like, oh my goodness, I can't do that. Like, I'm stuffing gauze into an open wound. I can't do that. And it's like, you would be surprised what you could do when you have no other choice.
Now, what got you? So you're a nurse, RN, registered nurse?
Yes.
What got you into nursing, and what got you passionate about doing this and starting your own? First of all, you're an entrepreneur. Hello.
Yeah.
So what got you in healthcare, and what got you into doing this work?
Well, what got me into healthcare was just being a mom. Like, like I said, I wanted to be at the Metropolitan Opera House. That's where I wanted to be. Yes. But life took me somewhere else. And once I became a mom, I, kind of realized that, I really feel like I could probably, be a nurse. I think I've always been interested in science. I love science. Science was always one of my favorite subjects, science and English. Not into math at all, but science and English were really my things. And when I started to go into nursing school, it took me a very long time because I had young children. So, I always tell people I crawled to my RN degree. I did. It took me many years. Just because, I still had to, be there for them. I didn't want to take myself away from that. So once I became a nurse, I'm in mental health. So I work for a big giant company. I always call them a powerhouse in mental health, Pittsburgh Mercy. I love the company I work for. And they have taught me so many things when it comes to mental health and helping our mental health and intellectual disabilities community. I'm a floater, so I float around. I love that. And I always get people who ask me, like, you don't want to stay in one place? Absolutely not. I like to float around because when I float, I get to meet all kinds of different people. The people we serve, I know them all. If we have, community events where all the people we serve are coming in, they all know me because I'm everywhere. And I really like that. So I was working for a branch of the company I work for. It's called the Community Treatment Team. And that's where people come into the community because these people that we serve live in the community, but they just need a little help. And so I was in charge of doing health and wellness groups, and I just took to it. I loved it. I would do, this is before I was a CPR instructor. So I did, groups on blood pressure, on, asthma, anything that I can think of just to try to, kind of show them some things that they can do to help themselves. And I was getting such good feedback from my colleagues who were saying, every Wednesday, they look forward to your health and wellness groups. They love it. And, I just started to think, I said, wow, if I could engage the people that we serve, with, severe mental health, and intellectual disabilities, if they can be engaged and really learn and love to come into these groups, maybe I can, do some other things and teach and educate people. And so once the pandemic happened, all the groups shut down. Of course, we couldn't do any groups. And I was working, of course, still, but other than that, that was all we were doing. If you worked, that was all you could do. And I started to try to figure out ways that I could, still be able to educate. All CPR classes weren't being taught. If anyone took CPR during the pandemic, you remember that there was only an online portion that they were giving you. And they were saying, you just do this. And then once we open back up again, we can give you you can do your hands-on skills. But I did some research and there was nothing saying that as long as we didn't have, social distancing, we could still do CPR. So I was one of the only training sites that was actually still doing in-person CPR during the pandemic. So I still had people coming in. We wore masks. We didn't provide breaths at that point. I made sure everybody kept their mask on, but we were still able to do CPR. So that's really what got me into educating. And ever since I started that and started to do CPR, it's just literally another passion that I have. I love educating. I love it so much. And I love the look that I get on people's faces when they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Or, oh, I remember something that I can relate that to. And now I see why that happened. And now I see what I can do to, in the future for someone. And I love when people really come in and they may be apprehensive about taking a course or, oh, I've done this a million times. I'm just ready to get this over with. But then, the way that we have to instruct with what they give us, the science that has been proven, right, by all the people who come together for these providers. But as long as we don't take away from what has been given us to teach, we can always add. And so I'm always looking for things to add, just like how I, talk about giving the Heimlich maneuver for those who are wheelchair bound, because that's just some things that I have learned and I have through my own research. And that helps because it actually brings in more information for people. And they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. Or how to do, the Heimlich on yourself or help yourself if you're choking and no one's around. So little things that I try to add in just to try to help people. So that is really just how I got into it. I didn't know, I never thought that I would ever, be someone who educated or, taught people how to do things. But that's just how it came about, was just at work doing groups, health and wellness groups.
That's a gift. That's, I was one of those. I'm like, I got to do this again. And, and you have to do it like every year or every other year.
Every 2 years. Yeah.
But I was just like so engaged, and your story gets better and better and better. Like, I didn't know that you worked with those with disabilities, but I didn't even know that. So you're pretty inclusive.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is the one thing that I love about the company that I work for. It's just everyone is there. Everyone is there. Everyone is employed there, and we serve everyone. So that is the best part about it, because it literally has opened me up. And that's why whenever when you and I got kind of together and I started to do some more research, I was like, wow, this is a lot of the things that I already do and see. But now I'm able to kind of even look more into it. And it's really even got my wheels turning on how I can even add more things into my own trainings, for people, so I can be more inclusive in all the trainings that I provide for people.
With your groups, or just if you look back on the span of the history of you engaging and teaching, and even now, like how many would you say roughly, like how many people are Black and how many people are brown? How many people do have disabilities that actually are able to take your classes?
Well, so I would say that I will be honest, as far as me doing my CPR classes, I do get a pretty decent mix of all people. I would say my healthcare provider courses are, I would say, less diverse. You know what I mean? And I just think that, we just need to get more out there in healthcare. But I will say there are some companies that I instruct for exclusively, and there are a lot more of us in those, it's a lot more diverse, more minorities in those courses. So, I would say that for the most part, I do teach, mostly it's a good mix of people. I can't say that, there's more, I would say slightly, less diverse in the healthcare provider courses. That's the only thing that I would probably say I see less diversity in. But as far as like my childcare and things like that, those are definitely pretty mixed with all people.
Are there any main things that people can do today to become just more educated, like outside of just like going to like the American Heart Association? Do they have like, I don't know, YouTube channel, courses? Are there anybody? I know a lot of people are on TTU.
TikTok University.
You know what? TikTok is a place that I have not really. I tried to get into that. I don't know. Sometimes I always tell my oldest son, I'm like, I'm trying to kind of bring myself into the new things, because I don't want to be like that person who gets older and starts to be like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not learning that. I'm not, because I haven't really dove into Twitter and things like that. I'm kind of like Facebook, Instagram, and that's it.
It'll suck you in.
But there definitely are. I have come across videos that were TikTok videos, but they're on other platforms, so I get to see them. There are definitely people who are showing, demonstrations on CPR. I've done demonstrations on infant CPR, just the physical, right? Just the physical, being able to show you what to do. So yes, there are a lot of places, a lot of people who are doing that. I've seen it. I've definitely seen people who have those platforms where they are showing people, and I'm trying to get better at it. That's the one thing with me, is that social media thing. It's just like, it's a different animal. It's something that you have to keep on a lot. So I'm trying to get more into it, to do more demonstrations, but there are definitely a lot of demonstrations out there on YouTube as well. So there are demonstrations for people to know at least the physical, just the physical part. You're not going to get all the theory that you need for a certification, but you can definitely see physically how I'm supposed to do something, or at least the steps to get to 911 telling you, because they're going to guide you through it. But yeah, you definitely can use social media for that, for sure. It's on there. I've seen it.
See, I love that. So for all my people that's still like, I don't want to go into a building, or I don't want to go ask questions, or I don't want to call, or just www. I'm sure you can hit a search bar and put CPR, just learn a little bit more, especially when it can help those around you, parents, people that are serving, all of us leaders, like all of us should have that awareness, just so that we can have that in our back pocket, to make sure that everyone has that ability to have a chance at something, right? Like, because you never know what happens. You could be choking on that good steak or something happens. I don't know. Things happen, right? But the reality is that in order to save a life, we should be educated more about just the basic things that we could do, instead of sitting around or pulling our cell phones out and just watching the moment. Because sometimes that quick little 1-minute video could have saved a person's life if you know what you were doing. And like you said earlier, it's in a chaotic moment that you find what to do. It's like teaching you how to do it instead of reacting like everybody else. And I think that that's very important to say. It's like helping kind of quiet down the chaos in a moment so that you can serve. That's kind of what I took from it. But I think that again, I've experienced the chaotic moment, so I know that it was too much noise and not enough help, or not enough awareness to help. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. That whole pull out the phone. There's been so many things that I have seen that I wouldn't even think to bring out a phone for. But again, I'm the older millennial. So, I just think that that's the reason why I don't think, let me get my phone. I'm always thinking of like my eyes. I want to see it. But yeah, that I really do believe that, education is education is key on this. It's key on this. And people are eager to learn. They just don't, if you don't have to take CPR, people just don't think they need to know it. You don't have to.
That's a good
they
point.
don't do it. Yeah.
I don't think I would have done it if I hadn't have been required to do it as an educator, teacher. And then when I taught fitness, we had to do it. And I had experiences where I've had to use it from, somebody passing out in class or whatnot. But I think everybody should do it. I encourage you to maybe get on TTU or make some YouTubes, because just listening to you and how inclusive you are, and like little things like for you just to say like, do a high maneuver on somebody in a wheelchair. Like I've never heard anybody just talk about that or show that. You know what I mean? And that shouldn't be a big deal, or going and working with intellectual disabilities and saying, hey, you can do this. Like, we needed to demystify that. And then people of color, I remember in McKees Rocks, they had a high, drug rate or, whatever. And so a woman was talking to me, and she's like, there was somebody across the street who looked like they OD'd on drugs. And I don't even think it was a black or brown person who OD'd. It might've been a white person, but they were scared to go over there and do Narcan, because they didn't know, like, were they really passed out? Like, what was going on? And I understand that, like, be safe, right? And be wise. But not every black and brown or, poor person is on drugs, so yeah, I just think that's important.
Right. Yeah. And Narcan training is also, of course, that's a part of CPR and first aid training. Narcan training is so important also. It's so very important. And I touch on things in Narcan training for people, and because, those opiates, I always try to kind of debunk who you would think is someone who needs Narcan. Mm-hmm. I always say it's not just people who use intravenous drugs. My mom had shoulder surgery. She had to get a rotator cuff. If she took her, her narcotic pain medicine in the morning, but she's in so much pain and she forgot that she took it in the morning, she could take another one too soon. And then here we have a situation where we need Narcan. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't look like, it doesn't, certain life-saving events don't have a certain look. Mm. And that's just something I try to just express. Anyone could need help, and everyone needs to know how to save everyone. And you have to let go of your bias. You have to let go of judging people based off of it. If I see someone who I think needs Narcan, I'm not going to think, well, what is it that they did? So maybe they don't need my help because they, took intravenous drug. No, I just need to save you, because at that point it's about me and what I want to do to help. Okay. It's more so internalized for me. I want to help you. I don't care about what you did to get here. I just want to help you. So I just think we really do need to kind of pull away from bias as much as we possibly can, and just see a person that needs help, no matter what they need the help for.
Oh, it's what's that word that starts with an E?
Empathy.
I know, I'm just playing. Let's all say it together. Let's all, but I definitely get it. You have to have that need and want, and that's why I think it's important to have this conversation out here, because especially with a lot of people in philanthropy, we already have a need and want to save a life. So like go the extra extent to make sure that you can do it in the moment, and just really pushing that, because outside of educators, there are a lot of organizations that these individuals that probably have more disparities or more facing more disparity are coming into our spaces for service because they don't have insurance or they don't have, like the cost to pay for things. So can we take the initiative to pay for courses to educate? Sometimes you can educate that one, it's that candy lady over there in the house, right? Like in the community, you can go find a way to get the candy lady that has CPR. She probably go and help everybody. I'm just speaking from the communities that are very tight, but everybody knows that one person you can go to their house, right? Like that's what I'm speaking from. Just even thinking of it from that perspective, where you have someone just tight in a community, they have the knowledge to help the community. I think a lot of we don't think about it like that sometimes. And so those homeowner associations and things, like make sure that you tap into this, because y'all at home watching, like if you're gonna be watching me, come save me too. Got them ring camera conversations. It's I think it's definitely one of those needs. And with technology coming, I think before I get away from this question, with technology being something that is being amplified, are there any technical devices that can do CPR for individuals? Because I don't know, but that's what I'll be curious, because of course, like for me, because I'm not physically able, maybe I have the strength, but depending on position, all of that, right? But is that something that might have been kind of brought out yet, like technology around that?
I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it yet. I haven't seen assistive devices for CPR. I have not.
Now, if somebody take my idea, say Wesley said it on the call, okay, trademark.
Yeah, you should definitely start because that would be extremely helpful. I mean, you see, we already have the de-choker device that's out there for people who are choking. It's kind of like that mask, and it's more of a suction, and so that's been created out there. So I would say that a system CPR device should definitely be on the horizon, and you should be the one to start it up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So you sing opera. Do you still sing?
I do. I mean, I don't sing, obviously not like professionally or anything anymore, but I'm constantly singing.
It seems like our time goes by so fast, and I told you it would be cool. Like we were so excited to have you. But you're a healthcare professional, you're a mother, you're a business owner. Like, what do you do to take care of yourself? What are things that you read, things that you do, things that you listen to?
So things that I have been trying to really do just to kind of support, myself and my mental and everything with everything I have going on. I try to prioritize sleep now because I just feel like sleep is something that, sometimes you just don't really prioritize because you have so many things going on. So I do prioritize sleep. When I start to feel tired, that's it. I'm just like, okay, that's it. I'm going to bed. Good night. And that's that. So I do that. I practice mindfulness, and I've started this year. I really have gotten into meditation. I love it so much. There's some YouTube people that I do follow. I think Alana Fox, I follow. She does like meditation, guided meditation and mindfulness for like entrepreneurs, Black women. Yeah. So that you can literally just tailor it to who you are. So Black women entrepreneurs is who she has, meditations for. And I love it. I really try to manage my stress. I try to. Stress is definitely something that everyone has to deal with. So I definitely try to manage it better. When things get to be overwhelming, I try to just take a break, take a break from it, read some of my books or something like that. I try to engage in lifelong learning. because I enjoy it. I enjoy learning. I feel like when it comes to the brain, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So I always try to, engage in lifelong learning. So I'm learning new things, and that really that brings me joy. Honestly, is learning new things. I think it was last year. I have biweekly therapy appointments, which I love. I love therapy. I did. Yes, I'm actually starting to get my children involved in therapy. So that's been honestly, I can't even express how much of a benefit I've received from that. And the biggest thing I would say that I have learned since then would be just to have self-compassion. Because I'm one of those people that's very hard on myself for things, and especially, from decisions you may have made in the past, and you just kind of have to really practice self-forgiveness, and have compassion for yourself, and just taking the time to understand it's okay to make mistakes if you learn from them, and just take time to just replenish your own joy after, you forgive yourself for anything, everything, not even anything, everything. So those are some things that I kind of do just to kind of support myself and my well-being.
Replenish your joy. I know, right, Wes?
I'm over here, I self-compassion. I'd have wrote it down. Oh man, I've heard that. I just did a course the other day, and it was kind of like some of these conversations was there. So it was like you just like refilled the cup just with sharing some of the things that you're doing. And I love that you shared it. And I love that how you did. It wasn't just talking about acknowledging stress. It wasn't just talking about reading. It was also saying like you are doing therapy and that it is something that you find joy in. And I think just sharing those steps, like, it helps. And then even giving yourself grace, I think we don't hear that a lot. So I really love to hear that, because as an entrepreneur, we find pressure sometimes. So I think I needed to hear that, but thank you. I would be curious. You said read your books. Is there any particular book that you like to reference to others, or just for yourself that refills you?
Well, I read, so I haven't really read too many self-help books. Actually, I dibble and dabble in them. There was a novel I have in my Kindle was Girl Get Up. And it was, and that novel is just more about, just kind of, picking yourself up and, just kind of, again, showing yourself grace and, understanding that, a lot of times as women, especially Black women, we have that strong persona, and it's just like, I think that cripples us a little bit. I really do. So just more so of trying to, that book really helped with that, as far as just kind of giving yourself more grace. I love that part of it. And I really, I always say I love my period pieces. I get so wrapped up in like the Tudor drama, all that stuff. I love it. I was on vacation. That's what I'm sitting there reading. And sometimes I get looks from people looking at me because I think they see me, right? Extensions in my hair, all that stuff. And then here I am reading a Philippa Gregory book, but that's what I like, cool. And, so I get into those so much. I really do. I love those. But those are some of the things I do. And I also kind of try to do, there's like challenges that you find in apps, where it's like, this is a 10-day discovery of yourself. So there's so many apps and things online that you can just find just to kind of like take a break and just kind of find a small community of people that you may not even ever meet or know. But they're doing the same thing as you. They have the same, we're going to do a 7-day challenge of mindfulness. We're having a 7-day, challenge on meditation, and you don't even see them. They're just little names, but that's it, and I like that because it just kind of lets you focus more on yourself. But then you kind of do know that there are people that are doing it with you, but you can just more so focus on yourself with it.
I like that because it's like you're in community. You have shared, like everyone who's watching, if one, just know that you can take the time to educate yourself. Like you said, it took you a while. It was a marathon for you to become a nurse, and you did it. You became an entrepreneur. Is there a website that people could find you? I know you said you're kind of on Instagram. Are you on Instagram and Facebook too? Like,
Yes. So Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Honestly, the name is so long, so it's just no one else has it. So it's just Steel City Healthcare Training. So steelcityhealthcaretraining.com is the website, and that's where there's course offerings and things like that. Steel City Healthcare Training on Facebook, Steel City Healthcare Training on Instagram. That's where you can find me. That's where you can find me for all the the classroom and the course needs. That's where I am.
To support Black businesses, right? Especially businesses that try to be inclusive, that provide solid, sound education. And you're so open to hearing like the voices of everyone. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I can't believe it's been an hour, Wes.
I know.
It has, but the cup has been filled. I mean, I think I got some takeaways outside of just things I need to do, as well as things my org can do as resources, but also just things for me to constantly just remember to give grace. And you did an amazing job today for all of us. So I'm grateful. Yeah, this was good for me.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, everyone, Steel City
Healthcare Training, Steel City Healthcare Training.
Healthcare Training. I'm a testament, like she did amazing. And we are going to be engaging with you like through Open Up. Wes and I both will reach out to you. And everyone, listen, take care of yourself. Learn as much as you can about CPR, AED, life training. You could go on YouTube. You can reach out to her and ask her for resources, or, just save yourself, save a life. Learn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the podcast. If you would like more information on the guests and the stories that you've heard today, and to hear stories from others, subscribe to the podcast. We also invite you to subscribe to Open Up Pittsburgh's newsletter, as well as our YouTube channel. We want you all to take care, and remember to make your own stories. This is April. Peace.